On February 13th, 2025, the Connecticut General Assembly's Children's Committee convened a public hearing on SB 1271 with the innocuous title, An Act Concerning Schools and Public Libraries. Here, unedited, are just 3 of many who expressed passionate opposition. Their objections speak eloquently for themselves.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brian Guttix. I appear before you today in opposition to Senate Bill 1271 as husband, father, West Hartford resident, and Connecticut taxpayer. I want to say right up front to clarify what I'm talking about, what I'm not talking. I'm not talking about Shakespeare, Maya Angelou, To Kill a Mockingbird, Mark Twain, etc. I'm talking about pornography being smuggled into public schools under the guise of sexually explicit graphic comic books. Let me be very clear. That is the context for what I'm saying here. Somebody asked a question earlier. I'm talking about Let's Talk About It by Erica Moen, available at Conard High School in West Hartford, Connecticut. They run a sex education-focused web comic called Oh Joy, Sex Toy. They have published this book, and it's available at the West Hartford, at least one place in a Conard High School. So that's what I'm talking about. So today I speak in solidarity with those parents who have been stigmatized, marginalized, and isolated by unequal power dynamics prevailing in public schools and libraries because of legislation like SB 1271, which seeks to enshrine the supremacy of raw government power over the selfless love of parents and their God-given right to preserve their children's all too fleeting innocence and ensure their healthy human development. 1271 muzzles the voice of primary caretakers of Connecticut children, their tax-paying parents, whose motivation is sacrificial love to do what is best for their own children, often at great personal expense. Unlike highly credentialed and empowered professional experts, parents are not motivated by monetary compensation or professional accolades. Neither are parents motivated by the extreme ideological commitments of professional activists, promoting trendy and dangerous ideologies threatening to alienate children from their parents and heartlessly splitting apart the sacred parent-child bond. This bill removes constitutional rights to petition the government for the redress of grievances that belong to all Connecticut taxpayers and limits them to a tiny subset, that is, only parents whose children are currently enrolled in a particular school or happen to be residents of a particular town. What about the constitutional rights of prospective parents whose children will be enrolled in the future? What about the rights of parents of alums?
Can you please summarize?
And what about the authority to take away the constitutional rights of taxpayers with no children? I suggest there's some very serious constitutional issues about this. I oppose this legislation, in conclusion, because it empowers school library staff to create displays and programs that in any other context would be civilly, if not criminally actionable misconduct or child abuse or neglect because of the hostile and unsafe environment it creates for minor children. Our parents need additional legal protection, not threats of litigation for simply pursuing redress of grievances to school library staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. We appreciate it. There seems to be a question from Representative Dauphiné. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brian, for your testimony today. I don't even know if I have a specific question other than that. I hear you, and I have the same concerns. As you probably have heard, I've been trying to pound it home with regard to prohibiting some very specific things. I don't think I've gotten anybody who is supporting this bill to agree to add this language in that I think is so important. But I will say we're not trying to ban books because we know that they can purchase them on Amazon, get them in public libraries, buy them in a bookstore. We're trying to prevent them in the hands of minor children. And to your point, parents are removed from this equation when they go to attend a public school and their child can go into the school and get their hands on one of these books. And I believe that's what you're referring to. Unlike parents who can control the phones, can control what movies their children watch and the like. It's very, very different. We have no control once our children walk through the doors of the school, what they're exposed to. Am I speaking your language with regard to what you're talking about?
It is. This whole discussion of book banning is completely diversionary. The language in this talks about displays and programs. The pornography is put on display during certain months of the year. So it comes to the kids, entices the kids, and and brings them in, not the other way around. And as far as programs, there could be all kinds of programs that do the same thing. They act to lure the kids in. The kids aren't looking for this stuff. It's all about the display and program language that's right here in the proposed legislation.
You know, and maybe you could speak to this. I wanted to just add this. When I was in school, health class talked about very specifically how perhaps a child were to come about an embryo with regard to a sperm and an ovary making connection, but I never remember a photograph or anything of the like depicting the sexual intercourse act. Has that been your experience too? I mean, this is all so foreign to me that we would think that this is okay in our public schools to show photographs and drawings of a sexual act between a man and a woman, anybody really, oral sex, anal sex. It's just beyond my comprehension that that's where we are today. Is that what you're thinking as well? And can you expand on that?
Yeah, that's the trick under the guise of sexually explicit graphic comic novels. In health class, I know that film. It's a novel called The Miracle of Life, and there is a birth being filmed. That's appropriate. You're talking about reproduction, procreation, etc. But this is what would be called it's enticing, inciting sexual excitement. That's what the comic book does. And of course, kids are raised on comic books and they see cartoons, so it's in their language. It's the way they understand the world for a lot of them who've experienced these cartoons and graphic novels. So it's completely different and unrelated to health class. I mean, that's just apples and oranges.
I just want to thank you. I don't have the opportunity to ask you any more questions, but I want to thank you for coming forward today and speaking on behalf of all the parents that want control over what their children are exposed to. And I would add that when we allow this, they don't have control. They step into the school and it's carte blanche on what the children can see and open up in a book. So thank you today for your testimony.
Thank you, Representative, for your questions. Representative Mastro Francesco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Brian, so much for coming in. Appreciate your testimony. We've been hearing a lot today about book banning. And we've heard a lot of people come up and say, well, those type of books are not in our school. And can you confirm to me, and I think you had mentioned something about maybe in the Hartford school. Would you be able to confirm that these books were in the school?
Yes, I've checked multiple times, including today, before coming here this afternoon. Let's talk about it. Eric, it's available at Conard High School. I accessed it online to confirm this, that it's right there. Erica Moan and Matthew Nolan, they're professional cartoonists out of Portland, Oregon. And I told you they had this webcomic called Oh Joy Sex Toy, and that book is readily available, for example, in the Conard High School library.
Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. Yeah, listen, we're not here today to ban books, and we just keep hearing we're banning books. We're trying to cure them, get them out of the school system. And when I talk about that and we say that, I'm called a crazy person because I don't want my children to see books in school with two people having sex with each other, graphic photographs. There are books in the schools as well that are very explicit when you read them, that are very much like reading a pornography book. And they're really quite offensive. I couldn't even read it. I'd be embarrassed to even read it here, although maybe I should, so people could see exactly what type of language in the book. This is what their children are seeing in school. So I thank you for confirming that. We've been saying this all day long, that these books are in the schools. I don't know if any reasonable person would disagree that we're concerned about our children seeing those, and the school is not the place for it. But I appreciate you confirming that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Thank you so very much for your testimony.
Thank you. Good evening, committee. My name is Aaron Bowman. I'm a father of 5 amazing kids from 9 to 17 years of age, and I strongly oppose Bill 1271 because it undermines local control, parental rights in our schools and libraries. This is not about book banning, as many have put it today. However, it's about allowing parents and communities to make decisions on what is age appropriate within their school libraries. I have a few key concerns with this bill. One, that it limits control over library material, local control rather. This bill forces school libraries to adapt state-approved policies, stripping local communities of the right to decide what is appropriate for their children. Schools should be accountable to parents and not bureaucrats, setting one-size-fits-all mandates. Public libraries that refuse to comply will lose state funding, punishing towns that want to control over their own institutions. 2, it creates bureaucracy barriers to removing inappropriate content. Parents who object to inappropriate materials will have to go through a possibly lengthy review process instead of having their concerns addressed locally. This bill prioritizes ideology over education, ensuring certain books and materials cannot be challenged or removed, no matter how controversial or inappropriate for a specific age group. 3, school libraries should focus on academic excellence and not political activism. This bill requires collections, displays, and programs to meet state-imposed inclusion mandates, regardless of whether they align with the educational priorities. What we should be doing instead is allowing our local school boards and parents to decide what is appropriate for students, ensuring age-appropriate material is accessible without forcing policy-driven content into schools from the state, to protect parental rights by keeping decision-making at the local level and not mandated from the state. We should be empowering families when it comes to children's education. This bill removes that. This bill is not about protecting libraries, it's about controlling them. It puts political interest above education and parental rights. I urge lawmakers to reject this bill and stand for local decision-making, parental involvement, and integrity of our education. It has been a while since I've read Huck Finn, but I don't recall that book explaining how to perform fellatio with graphic images. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Dauphiné, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Aaron, for being here today and giving your testimony. I have a couple of questions. One, would you be opposed to some language that I've mentioned several times regarding prohibiting books that depict pornography, sexually explicit conduct, touching a person's clothed or unclothed genitals, pubic area, buttocks, or if such person is a female, their breasts, a nude performance, a person in a state of sexual excitement, or masturbation?
No. Simple answer is absolutely not. I feel a lot of our laws are so broad and vary in what they say, and it's very difficult, and it ends up being challenged in courts because of the vagueness of some of these laws. So I think it's appropriate when it comes to the education of our children and the books that they are exposed to when the parents are not around, that it is very descriptive and outlines exactly what should be kept out of their hands.
Thank you so much for that. And I know that local control is very important, and this bill seems to take it completely away. I know you spoke quite a bit about that, but it looks like a big mandate to me, and it also limits, it puts a moratorium on the ability to come back and challenge a book the next year. Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Sure, absolutely. Here in my town, I'm in Mansfield, we have a process if a parent feels that a book is not age appropriate, and that process works. And I only know that because I was asked to look into some inappropriate material at the elementary school. And when I went, I talked with the administrators, and they laid out their process for local families who are concerned about what books are being brought into the school. And that book was reviewed, and it was removed because there was a mistake on the age appropriate level for that book. I couldn't tell you the name of that book right now. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but having something being mandated or having that nanny state above us telling us how we should run our lives, what we should educate our children with, is completely inappropriate. That is not the place for the state. We should have the right as parents to dictate what is taught, what books are allowed, and to have that process at the local level where we can have those adult conversations on what is appropriate for our children and what is not. Definitely not coming from the state. That is probably the worst possible way to handle this.
Thank you so much for that. I know I too live in the northeast corner. We have a lot of small districts with a lot of local people that want to be involved, and we see things a lot differently than those on the other side of the state. And as a result, we're often put in a clump, and they're trying to make this mandate that one size fits all schools, and it really takes away that local control. So I really appreciate you coming out to speak about that and speaking about how you feel as a parent. We're not trying to ban books because we know that they're still available, whether it's, I think I've mentioned Amazon, bookstores, and the like. We're just trying to, like we do with movies and social media and some other things, we're trying to make it so that minor children are not exposed to some of the things that we just talked about. Thank you so much, Aaron, for testifying today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate your testimony.
My name is Rick Porter, and I'm a street pastor. And the last 4 years, I've been out in the streets all year long. And the last 3 years, primarily in Waterbury. And I developed a rapport for diligence, people coming to me. And I'm very concerned about the aggressiveness of what's going on when I see the kids in school. Now, I do believe that if we pass this bill, that I, as a grandparent or as a preacher, might not be able to go into a school and say, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing," and I would show this particular book, and that my voice is going to be shut down, and the kids are going to be hurt because the aggressiveness right now of the porn addiction is real. I mean, it is real. A 12-year-old, and he's older now, but he was 12 years old when he first started founding little kids. And yes, I do know that he can go on his phone, he can go here, and he can go anywhere, to steal porn time. But what I'm afraid of is that he can go into a school and see this stuff and say, well, my librarian says it's okay, my teachers are saying it's okay, so it's okay. So then who becomes the pedophile, really, at 12 years old? I know I'm working with a kid right now who's 17, and he's saying, I don't think you understand. It's an addiction. I'm addicted to this stuff. I masturbate every day, but I'm still mad. I can't get enough. And you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. I've been hearing this from the kids, and it's really breaking my heart because it is an addiction. I've seen some great things. I've seen drug addicts healed instantly, in the streets, and a lot of things. Alcoholics and porn addictions seems to be by far the hardest things to get kids delivered from. And that is my main concern, as a pastor, as a grandparent, that if we say, hey, it's okay, and I have librarian friends who wouldn't show up today because of the fact that of the political process, they were afraid to get in trouble. Because one of the things that they're testifying to is like, no, this is porn. No, it's not. The director's saying it's not porn. They're saying it is porn. Look at it. And they're saying this stuff.
Can you please summarize?
So my thing is that I really believe the best way to protect our children is to make sure they see no graphic materials in their grade schools, because when they do, it's saying, hey, we're okay in this. We're sectioning this. So please don't pass this.
Thank you for your time. I see Representative Daphne has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just thank you so much for your testimony today. can you elaborate on your experience with those that in particular have been exposed to some of these graphic pictures as young children? I know we had a doctor earlier that I think she's going to send in data. Her expertise is in this field. She's worked with many, many children, and the findings have been very, very prolific with regard to children being exposed at a young age and having the issues and challenges that you shared. Can you expand on that, please?
Well, I know a magazine that was like a cartoon magazine in one of the public libraries, where a 6-year-old grabbed it and just started looking at it. And it was very graphic. I don't know the name of the magazine, but and I can't really get into too much of the details, so I don't want to get this person in trouble. But I think you all know the case of the grandmother who saw their 6-year-old kid looking at this stuff in a regular, public library. And my concern is, if they can't identify what is porn and what is not, how could we trust our school librarians? And especially when people are getting so liberal right now, that when are we going to draw the line? I've been hearing you, Senator, I'm saying all the time, it's like trying to get people to say, do we believe that it should be sexual orientation, or when people are fondling each other, or touching each other, touching each buttocks, or touching their breasts, should that be allowed? No, our kids should not be able to see that stuff. If they do, we're sanctioning it. We're saying, we're adults, we're telling you it's okay. And then who becomes, when they get aggressive, who becomes the real rapist? I'm saying it's the adults for not protecting them. Who becomes the pedophiles? I'm saying it's the adults for not protecting them, and not the kids themselves. What we're going to do, give the 12-year-old drugs and the one they abuse drugs just to heal them, make them feel better? No. We got to protect our children. It's a spirit. It really is. They're so aggressive. I'm talking to kids. I know some other kids too. I can bring, if they weren't afraid of, what people would say, I would invite them here, because it's a very aggressive spirit, the porn addiction, very aggressive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. I've been trying to get agreement on preventing some of the stuff that we just talked about, but there seems to be no impetus for that. I think, when we talk about banning things, by law, we don't allow minor children to purchase Playboy books, Hustler, and those sorts of books that are in gas stations, and yet we are depicting graphic pictures in some of these books that seem to be acceptable. I don't know. Do you counsel children as well, and have you encountered any of this, or do you talk to parents with regard to that? Are you able to share that experience?
They all have my number. There's I give my my phone out for a text. Anytime they need me, I'm there. I only counsel men, obviously, or teenage boys or whatever. If anyone's younger, I have to go talk to their parents to make sure, hey, I'm the street pastor that you all see around. And but I do have a great rapport with a lot of people, and all the different. I mean, I went through just about every street in Waterbury in the last 3 years, preaching in every neighborhood. And I counsel them, and I tell them, hey, you're going to be all right. And I talk to them about faith, development of faith, and I actually was able to lay hands on some people and cast these demons out of people, to be honest with you. It's a spiritual warfare. I know a lot of people don't understand that, but it is a spiritual warfare. I've seen schizophrenics healed just like that.
Thank you for your time
Thank
today.
you so much for your testimony today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions,